Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. So today I'm going to be working on a character from my story, and she's the main character basically, although there's a lot of characters. And let me write down the topic. It is Friday, September 13th, 2024, and I don't really know what I'm going to call it, but sketching character. Actually, I'm going to put profile, which I may or may not already have a video about that, but I wrote it on the back of this sheet because I took sketches that I did in my sketchbook and put it on one sheet for this particular exercise. And before I get into it, I just wanted to talk about the materials I'm using. So this was my previous sketchbook, kind of basic, I got from a long time ago, and the one that I'm currently using, oh, it's actually underneath this. It's just like a generic like no brand kind of sketchbook that isn't really even the best paper or anything, but isn't too bad. I'd give it like a medium. This one is also oh wow, I opened it exactly to this picture. This paper is better. Like, I prefer it, although like I said, the other one is not too bad either, but I think it just bleeds a little too much, and this is smoother. But yeah, I'll put a link to this. There's 3 videos where I sketched it and inked it and then ended up with this, which I erased all the pencil lines. And in the playlist for figure drawing, there's also videos about how to draw a profile. So with that said, let me start a 5-minute timer for those of you that just want to sketch for 5 minutes and use these videos as a timer, which I do to a certain extent. But what I'm going to do is, so it took a lot of different sketches to kind of arrive at like a made-up character that looks kind of similar. Like I'm not necessarily trying to make it look exactly like drawn exactly the same way, and that's part of why animation and cartoons and comics has a very stylized look, so that you can replicate the same character over and over. So that's part of the purpose and like the charm of it, I suppose. And so this is kind of like that, where I'm simplifying it to the level that I like. Again, it's just like a stylistic thing, and like a preference thing. If I were having to animate the character, I would simplify it even more. And I like that. I mean, there's an art to simplifying complex things. With that said, in this video, what I want to do is, for this sheet right here, so yeah, I'll post a link to this. This one I sketched out the character, and some of the reasons is because if I'm not really like in the zone, I'll just sketch something out in pencil so that I can ink it, because then I can make adjustments. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like a way of doing it. I don't always like to do it that way. The other thing is I did it to kind of do a demo of like for the videos. And so yeah, if you're still figuring stuff out, I would just use pencil or quick sketches and just sketch and not worry so much about how nice it looks. So that there's that. And then once you start to get kind of an idea of what you're going for, like these actually came before this, and these were done, maybe I was like, I think this one I might have been browsing around and then just sketched it straight with ink without pencil. And then this one, I think I might have just done out of imagination, because I kind of knew what I was wanting to draw. So there's just different approaches. Now for this, and then like I said, I compiled it into like a style guide, I guess, or a character sheet. So what I want to do is, I don't really have like a profile for her, so I'm gonna put that here. And the way I'm gonna do it is, I'm not gonna use any reference because I feel like I already have reference right here. And there's a reason for that, because one, this is like a simplified version, so that it becomes more like a character. Also, yeah, like if you were to use reference, it'll start to look like another character, it'll look like someone else. So there's that. And then and also it's just good practice, I think, to sometimes you get, like with this for example, you get accidents that turn out pretty well, and of course you can also mess up the sketch, but you know, that's part of it. So then the next thing, the other kind of purpose is excuse me, to go over how, you know, like I go about doing just sketching from imagination and like straight to the paper. Okay, so that was a lot of kind of stuff to go over in the intro, and that was about 5 minutes there. So yeah, so to begin with, when you have, so these are just some tricks, like tips and tricks. Sometimes it's good, I'll start another 5-minute timer by the way. Sometimes it's good to know like how to draw, and this is where knowing like proportions help. It's good to know like how to fit a drawing like onto like the paper where you want it to be. So for example, I scaled this on the computer, so I didn't like sketch them at this size. However, what if you wanted to draw it at the same basic size? So one thing is, you can measure it. You can use our handy tool here, which I don't know where it is, but find a way to measure it out if you want. I'm not gonna do that because these aren't so photorealistic that you need to have like a likeness, like, where you measure and grid it and everything like that. So what I'm gonna do is just use kind of like the basic proportions and go from there. So with that said, I want to fit the profile like kind of the same like scale, but then put it here. So with that said, I'm going to, and then I don't want to use a ton of construction lines because I want it to look kind of like these. So I'm just going to draw like points to indicate how tall the profile is going to be, and then kind of indicate where like the middle is. And from there, when I give myself like guides, I want to think about like where the line, like where I actually want to draw the line, so to speak. So that's to keep it from having a lot of scribbles on there. So for example, if you have like this top here and then like you know where the midpoint is, that's going to serve as like the brow line right there. And then you might think, well, how far out, you know, should you go? Which is a good question, actually. So what I'm going to do is, it's about, in a profile, it's basically a square. So again, you could measure. I'm just going to like kind of eyeball it here and think about like making it like equal, like from here to here to here, that kind of thing. So that's one way to do it, or just do it in pencil if you want. This is just how to do this, how to just ink it. So if you have like the brow, hold on, getting used to sketching on camera here. So yeah, if I have this much, then the next thing I want to figure out is this will be like where the chin goes, and then this will be like the top of the head. And you can start to put a little bit of the skull structure. Now, I haven't decided exactly how her hair is going to be. Can you see this? Let me zoom in a little bit, it'll be easier. Okay, so yeah, just start to like, again, it's up to you how much guidelines you want to use. If you're using ink, it's probably not good to use too many guidelines. Again, depending on what you're going for. So once you start to kind of get some of the boundaries here, so at this midpoint, it's basically where the ear is going to be. But again, I don't, maybe the hair is going to be covering it. But yeah, so this will be the brow. And if I know that that's going to be the brow, then halfway down here, that's where the nose is. That's 5 minutes. And I'll do a few of these 5-minute sessions. So then again, using like the character as a guide, so I basically have a front view like with the hair down, hair up, and then like I'll just use that as like a 3/4 for now. So I might decide that if that's the nose, it's gonna come out. So if I were just doing this without speaking about it, like trying to explain it, it would be more like intuitive or whatever. But basically, if this were like the circle, the nose is coming off of that circle. There's like a straight line that comes down, which I don't want to draw. And then again, once I have that, like the nose, then I can go ahead and place what I think like the lips would look like. Kind of like that. And again, if I'm not totally committed to the way it should look, I'm just going to indicate And so if I know that this is the chin, so again, in a profile, the face can look very different, and that's what makes it interesting to draw. Yeah, somebody can look a certain way from the front, but again, you can kind of use that's why it's good to do, this is like a turnaround. So then you have to kind of think about like the angle, like that. So yeah, I'll post a link to this, and then I'll post a link to like the profile, or if you just want to check out like how to draw profiles. And then for like the eyes, so one, decide where the nostril goes, and then the eyes are basically right there. So we said like that's the brow, so you can put like the eye right there. And again, these are areas that pretty much I know is going to be outlined in some way. So if this is the brow, then I might just kind of do that because I know I'm going to draw some of that. And then think about as far as like how far back. So I would think about the mouth is going to go a little bit past the nostril here. Kind of like that. And then that's about where the middle of this eye is. So these are just basic proportions. And then what makes the character look the same are just like the different shapes. And then some areas you can think about, like it's okay to double up, so you'll notice like it's okay to kind of go in and draw over some lines and stuff. It doesn't look bad. Also, don't rush. I mean, it's kind of interesting talking about it while doing it, but you don't have to rush. But one thing that's good about this is that it makes you have to decide, just make artistic choices, and it makes you think about like the character, like what would that look like in these different angles. So I feel like that's a big part of art, is just deciding things, like big part of what makes it individual. So once you start to get kind of this kind of thing, I mean, you pretty much have like the profile, and then it's just a matter of refining the shape a little bit. But notice that you don't have to draw like a ton. And then the next step would be, you might want to indicate a little bit more of, for example, maybe where the ear is, it may be covered. It's going to come off of that center line here a little bit. So I'm not going to draw too much because I may actually cover it, but we'll see. But the other thing would be like, if you know that this is kind of the back of this, so that it's kind of good to know that the ears right here. because the skull kind of goes around like that, which is important for, especially if like you are going to draw like the hair down, to not make it look like the head is a weird shape. Basically with that kind of thing, the hair, it's bigger than you think it is in the back of the head, but not like as big as you might think. I feel like usually the mistake is to draw it like too narrow. Because, for example, if you were to draw it a little bit like wider, you can at least say like the hair is poofy. But if you draw it too narrow, that's like the skull is the wrong shape. So with that said, like for the neck, like where it starts, it's kind of in between the, if this is the center here where the ear is, and then like if this is where the eye is. So you basically, when you start to go in to like refine it, you start to give like you look at the reference that you're using and then make it look a little bit more like what you think that would look like in profile. But the neck kind of starts like in between here, and then the back of the neck, so that it starts where like the chin, but then the back of the neck is kind of in between like where the mouth. So this would be a circle, for example, and then the back kind of starts like that. It starts higher up. If you want, you can kind of indicate a little bit more of this, like the top of the head starts to flatten out a little bit more. So that's like the basic guidelines for that. And then from there, you can kind of think about, I'll sketch the hair because if you check out like the videos, again, I know that some people, this is the first time you're watching one of my videos. So not this week, but the previous week. So about maybe 5 videos ago, I went into details about how to draw like the eyes and the nose and the lips and everything, and like the ears. And then I mentioned that I haven't gone over like how to draw the hair, but basically this is how I do it, and there's so many different approaches to it. But my basic thing is, so with her, I'm going to have the hair like kind of down, kind of like more like this, or maybe even like that. But I'm just going to indicate kind of the general shape of it without like all the little details. And that's my usual approach, is just kind of get like the overall like shape of it. So the first thing might be, is the ear going to be covered or not? Like that would be good to know. So I'm going to go ahead and just cover it, and in that case it's good to know like sort of like the general shape of it, because that will affect the highlights. And so yeah, the hairline is going to be, so what we did was we basically did like the thirds, but the hairline is not straight. It's kind of it'll be generally like around here, and it's a little different for everybody, but it's like the thirds here. Now if I were just sketching this in the sketchbook, I wouldn't worry so much about not drawing construction lines, although I wanted to replicate these because they weren't done with construction lines. But sometimes before I can end up with a sketch that I like, I might do several that are kind of messy before I have like the one that's like that I like. And so I wanted to practice that basically. Yeah, so with that said, I mean, if the hair's kind of down, I'm just gonna give like the general shape of it, and then the ears will affect it. So I know it'll kind of come out. The hair doesn't have to fit on this page. So I want to keep it kind of consistent. Like I didn't draw all of the shoulders and stuff, so it looks more like a portrait, face portrait. As far as like the neck, it's kind of good to know, like, especially on a profile. So just kind of loosely sketch this in, because I know I don't want to draw too much of this, because if the hair is covering it, especially with ink, but if you can see through some of it, it's okay. I don't think I started a timer. Let me start one and kind of wrap this up. So I'm gonna think about like kind of the hairstyle here. So yeah, I just now started a 5-minute timer. So that's what I would do as far as like the hair. Just kind of think about this would be like the first, because I've been talking about like the different stages. This would be like the first stage. So the neck comes down and then it'll reach like the collarbone right here. I might indicate a little bit of like the collar of her clothes. So yeah, that's just like one way to do this that I wanted to share. As far as like, I mean, at this point, if you want to look up hair, you can. But what I would do is kind of think about the lighting. And since this is like a character like sheet, like a style guide, I wouldn't get too fancy with the light, like be overly dramatic with it. So like generally speaking, like I'll start to, again, these are like different passes. So this would be like the first, like the layout, and then start to like indicate light. Think about like the different locks of hair. So start from general. So you have like the big locks of hair right here. So that it doesn't look too mechanical, unless that's the style you're going for. That kind of thing. And then work on it like all together. Could have some of it like, be out here. And then start to like go in and refine it. But I feel like that's the fun part. I mean, this is like the hard part, I guess, if you want to call it that. But yeah, that's one way of just going straight to like the ink without a ton of construction lines and keeping it on character. And yeah, I'll just post some links and keep working on this. So from here, I want to draw like I don't have like well, I have sort of a full body here, but like in a dress. So I'm gonna again use like proportion just for like the composition, and so I'm just gonna make it fit like here. But that, maybe I'll do that for tomorrow's video. really appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.